Well, thanks for joining us. I'm joined here by Barry Bloom and Joanne Thomas, and really excited in regards to talking about mentoring and kind of a different slice on mentoring in regards to the whole person mentoring, not just the professional technical competency, but also in regards to investing in employees that might actually invest so much that they get really good and they leave, but you need to do the investment anyway. So it'll be a wide-ranging conversation. I can't do them justice in regards to an introduction. So Barry, I'll let you introduce yourself as one of the co-founders of the Transitions with me, and then we'll let Joanne introduce herself, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, thank you. So proud to be doing the Transitions and building this movement that is so important and also has the characteristics that are very, very important to all of us, and specifically for the co-founders, in that we wanted to start something that had no commercial financial interest. Everything's free. No one pays for anything. There's no quid pro quos. There's no ulterior motives. Wanting to be very transparent and wanting to seriously address what we all see coming down the pike relative to the talent gap as older baby boomers and others migrate out, and millennials and Gen X and Zers and others choose not to migrate in, which I guess is really the essence of it. I've run TPAs, had the fortunate role to manage a national consulting practice for Aon for around 9 years, doing claim consulting for employers, and run startups, and just very, and I guess feel very lucky and fortunate to have met some very special people like both of you. We know each other and have become close and friends by virtue of a work thing, if you will. And that's pretty rare, at least it is for me. I don't really do that very often. And so to be able to be with both of you, whom I respect so much and who are really number one in your respective fields, it's good to be here. Thanks to both of you for letting me join.
Well, thanks. I appreciate all the commitment that you've made to this. You know, Joanne, you've got a slightly different background, and you're making sure that we're staying within the legal boundaries of what we can talk about as an attorney. If you can introduce yourself for those that may not know of you.
Oh, yeah, sure. So my name is Joanne Thomas. I am an attorney now for 30 years. And I've spent my entire 30-year career right out of law school in my firm that I'm in right now. It's down at Reubens, Thomas, Kinsey. And I'm currently the president and CEO of our firm. And I manage 2 of our branch offices. And I love it. I love it. I still handle cases. I still train new attorneys. Just the gambit of everything. I just love having my hand in all that. And I just appreciate being here. I've worked with Barry for years and years in the past, and we have a connection. And of course, Mark, we were just sort of new to each other the last couple of years, but I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. When we had breakfast in Long Beach pre-COVID, I learned so much in 30 minutes with you in regards to a lot of the nuances. You're a wealth of knowledge and a perfect mentor, you know, for people in your organization as well as in the industry. And I know you have a personal passion based on that discussion in regards to mentoring. Can you describe maybe some of the mentoring experiences that you've had, and maybe some of the lessons learned that you've done as a parent, as a business owner, as a leader, you know, all that kind of stuff? Share some of your best practices and lessons learned that you've had in mentoring.
Oh, sure. Well, one of the most important principles I think I apply to any situation in mentoring is just to have my sense of my core values translate to who I'm communicating with, whether I'm mentoring them or not. Because, in my view, we're all mentors, whether you realize it or not. I mean, you're being looked at. If you're working in an organization, you're being observed. And new employees that see you that have been there for a number of years, they do look up to you. They do admire what you've accomplished. They do look at that and try to see what qualities led to help that person get to that position. So I've always just felt that core values is such a key component to getting credibility across to whoever you're talking to. And I really want to be the person that you're talking to now is the same person that you would see in the lunchroom or at the grocery store, or, parenting my kid. That to me, that's just a key component of it. And I think that I learned that early on, and that's been a pretty solid key to my great experience in mentoring. I love it, and that's probably why I love it.
So authenticity is a key component, a different way of kind of saying what you talked about, that you're the same person and that everybody is watching you. Barry, all three of us are parents. I'm sure, Barry, you're used to, in your previous leadership positions and as a father, that you're constantly aware that people are watching you and you have to make sure that who you are is what you say you are, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that old, walk the walk thing. I learned something in my career that I literally will never forget. And it's a quick anecdote about, I was the CEO of our TPA at the time, and we were owned by a brokerage, and there were rumors that our company was going to be closed and put out for what they call disc op, which is discontinued operation, because of the financial circumstance that Aon was in at the time. And I was on an all-day conference call. My office was in the corner. I put my office specifically in a claim office. We had 15 offices around the country, but I wanted to be kind of where things were so I could see stuff. And so I'm walking, we just were on hold. It was a conference call. It was way pre-Zoom, before video conferences. It was many years ago. And I'm walking to the restroom, and I'm thinking about what had just been said on the call and how was I going to handle it and be politically appropriate, but still get what we wanted. So I was kind of thoughtful about it, and I had to walk through the claim office to get to the lobby to get to the men's room. So as I'm doing that, normally when I would walk through, I always made it a point as a leader of the company to be very gregarious when I was amongst our staff. I said hi to everybody. There was nobody that was too, I just said hi to everybody. Everybody was important. I wanted everybody. And so I always did that. I did that morning. And so in the afternoon, I was going to the men's room. I was in thought, went to the men's room, came back, and I got a call from my VP in the Minneapolis branch. And he was on the call, but he chose to call on another line. I'm like, what's going on? Hey, Matt. He goes, well, I just want to know, are we selling the company? I said, what? We're talking about how we're going to handle the merger. That's the whole thing, and blah, blah, blah. He goes, well, there were people in your office that saw you and said that you were so upset that when they saw you, you've been behind closed doors all day, and that you were so upset. So they, there's a rumor going around that we're being sold. I'm like, well, I didn't say anything or do anything. And then I realized I did do something. And what I did was walk through where everybody's eyeballs are right on me. What am I wearing that day? How am I looking? How am I talking? And I didn't say hello to everybody like I do 99.5% of the time. And so that somehow got all the way back in our network, back to the guy in Minneapolis, who then called me and started, so this rumor had started. So it's so important. We don't realize it. And, some of my management style was to really kind of not be, imperious, not be the big cheese. I kind of wanted to blend in, if you will, and be, we're all kind of together. We just have different jobs, different desks. And as much as I wanted to do that, you can't. You will never, if you're the boss, you will always be the boss. You can't, you can interact and you can do certain things, but it was, so I learned that lesson, relatively early in my leadership career about optics, about never being off when you're on stage. And trust me, when you're in the office, you're on stage all the time. So it's I totally get it, and I agree with that premise that it's just so valuable to be aware of your surroundings and to be very cognizant about how other people might see you, and then make whatever choices you want to make about that.
Yeah, even nonverbal communication. It was obvious that the fact of being deep in thought and not being outgoing was perceived to be there's something else going on,
right?
Which is interesting, and that happens a lot of the times. Joanne, I know something that you're specifically focused on and concerned with, kind of on this track, is from a mentoring standpoint, is to focus on the whole person, not just the technical proficiency, not just technical skills, but actually the whole person, the character traits, the personality, all the things that go into being a good, not only employee, but also a good human being. How do you focus in on that? How do you take that broader picture?
Well, yeah. So, a lot of us probably have heard this expression where the younger kids that are coming out of college, they don't have the same values. They don't want to stick around to a job for very long and all that. And that's like a defeatist attitude about it, and I've had that experience too in my work. But the thing is, my approach to that is, let's do something about it, let's get them enthusiastic about the job. I mean, when I first got my job in the firm, I was just like, if you just hire me, I'm going to do a good job. Just give me the chance. I'm going to do a good job. And I didn't really know my passion for mentoring until I became a mentor. And that was a full 9 years later. And I started realizing, I really love my job. I can translate that to somebody I'm training and help them learn to love it too, and probe them for what areas of what we do that they really love and help them make that blossom. And that just creates a whole lot of job satisfaction. And then you're happy, in other areas of the employment, but then you take it outside of the work environment as well. And so, and if I see that, somebody isn't that committed to any area of law when I'm interviewing them, then I start seeing, wow, maybe I can make them really excited about what we do, and on one aspect of what we do. And for myself, when I became super excited about certain aspects of what I do, that's when I felt like I could mentor that, because I was living that, and there's just, for example, certain, cross-examining doctors, for example, sometimes that's challenging, and you can feel a little defeated as an attorney because you feel like the doctor can say a lot of things that maybe we wouldn't understand, being that we're not doctors. But when you take that on as a challenge to learn the medical and to really see if you could really make a change on this and you get some success, you get excited. And that excitement, it translates to the people that you're around and that you're mentoring. And then they get excited. And then they understand, wow, there's a value to working here that's beyond, the 9-to-5 skill that I'm getting in handling a case or, answering the phone with a pleasant voice all the time. And I think it just can grow on each other. And I think that's why I love it so much, because it's so rewarding for me. And then when I can see that person blossom on those things, which is not even necessarily a job task, that's when I feel like I'm doing good.
Mm-hmm.
So my experience, Mark, with Joanne is very deep, and we've worked with each other for a long time. One of the things that when we first met, Joanne's approach, I was overseeing the California Self-Insured Security Fund. Joanne was on the panel with a couple of the TPAs that were running the program for us. We had a very severe case, very expensive, and we did what we call a double play, which is really a file review on steroids that is maybe a little twist of a file review, but it's similar to that. And Joanne came to the boardroom at the TPA's office and literally kind of set up her office. She had, like 2 suitcases and all kinds of supplies, and pulled out files that were this big, 8, 10, 12 inches each. And she was ready. You could tell this was a person that just looked ready. And then there was a very unique disease that was in question. I think it was Marfan's. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Marfan's syndrome, I believe. And the bottom line is that Joanne took it on herself, in my opinion, took it on herself to become a Marfan's expert, and spent a lot of money and a lot of time doing that, and not, superficial, read a few paragraphs. I mean, some significant research, to the point where when she was talking to clinical experts about it, she was kind of leading them a little bit, because she was frankly a little bit more informed than they were on that particular issue. So to watch her do that, and to watch her have the success, she nailed it, crushed it, saved the people of California and the California Self-Insured Security Fund a ton of money in a great result. But it was way more than that. What it did was, it not only let me and the TPA and the examiners and the supervisors know what an incredible practitioner she was, but it also spread around her office. And she became known not only as the Marfan's expert, but as the one that crushed it on a really big, expensive case. And sometime thereafter, she brought over her mentee, because we we interviewed every lawyer that was going to get put on the panel. She asked and recommended this person, and we didn't know her, and she's a relatively young, I don't want to say a real newbie, but kind of a, relatively, certainly compared to Joanne's time and experience. And sure enough, in the interview, in the meeting, Jennifer brought up that very case. And something to the, I don't remember the exact words, but something to the effect of, well, I hope I can only do half as good as she did on the blah, blah, blah file. And that kind of leadership, but kind of by example, but then also, to be inclusive is the, some of the best mentorship you can get. And Joanne, can you brag on Jennifer a little bit now? Give the, how long she's been with the firm, what she did, what she's doing now, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, absolutely. She's been with us now for 16 years, and she's our senior associate in the Inland Empire. She is mentoring trainees. She's managing the office when I'm not around. She's helping me make decisions. She's troubleshooting. She's inventing new ways we do things. I mean, all the things that you want to see somebody just come into their own, and it's really rewarding for me, and she really loves it too. And I think that's just the key, is to help people find what they love, because they don't know. If they're coming into an industry and you're getting taught the nuts and the bolts of a job, and for all the amazing resources and reasons that the transition even has this program, it's great. But to do that and to try to build a love of it that's the real winner, in my book.
She didn't start out 16 years ago as a lawyer with your firm, did she?
No, she was right out of law school like me. Yeah, she read out
Yeah.
law school like me. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like, Joanne, you're kind of a millennial at heart if we do kind of the broad brush, and I think I am too, even though I'm way older than a millennial. But, having that purpose-driven life, wanting to enjoy what you do, it's not drudgery, when Monday happens, etc. That isn't necessarily born into people. So, for someone who may not have that, and you kind of recognize that as a mentor and go, we need to kind of take this into a new direction, and let's focus less on the skills and the competencies and the check boxes, and let's focus more on finding your why, finding what makes you tick,
Yeah.
finding what will drive you, what will make you excited about that. How do you draw that out of people that may not inherently, natively, organically just kind of figure it out, and they're at the age of 13, they figure out a previous conversation, they figure out what they want to do. How do you draw that out of someone who hasn't figured that out for themselves?
Well, you show interest. You ask questions. In my office, if it's a work environment, what about this case is really piques your interest? What about this case do you think that you could, really challenge? Or, how are you going to approach this settlement communication with the applicant attorney? Like, is it the communication part that speaks to you? Is that the fact pattern that speaks to you? This could be anything in life. It could be parenting a kid. It's getting the information from the person so that allows you to do what you do as a mentor, is take that information and translate it to blossoming that interest in that person. And I think if you do that over a number of topics, experiences, it just grows on itself. And for me, I had to learn to love my job through certain, once I had a positive experience at a trial, then I loved trials at that point, right? Once I had a positive experience with a trainee, I love training. So I had to kind of find my reasons to learn that I love something, but why can't we just train that? Why can't we mentor that and save all that time and help blossom that in every person? And they'll find their niche, and that will maybe address some of the loyalty / leaving issues that maybe some businesses are experiencing. Because if you can satisfy that need in a person to really do what they love, and you help them find what they love, that's pretty intangible, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And really valuable.
Well, that's one of the things we talked about, is kind of that cartoon, what if we train someone and educate and invest in them and they leave? And the alternative to that is, what if we don't and they stay? So there's an incentive to invest in that, but you always open up the possibility that you've done such a great job, that their skills maybe outgrow the job opportunities, or, they're given other opportunities. But it sounds like what you're saying is, by virtue of finding what's key to them, what's important to them beyond the skills and the competencies, but what helps them be who they are, and helping blossom that out of them so that they achieve that benefit. There's an intangible loyalty there, because you've invested so much of yourself, besides just teaching them how to tear apart law, or how to tear apart a witness or whatever, all those other things that go on. What you have found is that there's an intangible kind of loyalty just because of that investment.
Exactly. And the thing is, to me, that's step one. Step two then is, okay, now you have this credibility as a mentor. You help them find what they love. You're giving them opportunity to explore that and grow that. Now I feel like I have a little bit of a door open to go. I love defending psychiatric cases. I love it. Here's why I love it. Let me help you with that case. And I can help them grow their love of doing that. So it expands beyond just what's in them into maybe things that are in you, or things that you think that they'd be good at that maybe I'm not good at. Because I always say my work world is like a big piece of pizza, a big pizza pie. We're not all the same, but we fit together, and we don't want to all be the same. And so that's how you have a well-rounded organization. That's my philosophy. We do that just in my own family as well. But so you're helping them learn what they love, and then see if they love what you do. But then maybe there's things you don't do well, and there's an open space there in the organization. Maybe they're right for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The thing that I love about it is that you you're enhancing what people like that isn't necessarily the traditional thing. Like I like taking depots, or I like being in trial, or I am afraid and hate being in trial. What you're doing is actually getting them to understand their passion about the functionality, less about the specific, either the specific case or a specific major issue in the chronology of a case, but to get into, I like you said, site cases, or anything that is not so focused on, that is, I'll put it this way, that is transferable in their career, not only to other cases, but, to other aspects of their job.
Yeah. And then step 3 is to bring it down to interim and short-term goals toward that thing that they're learning to love. So
Right.
Yes, I want to win the case, or yes, I want to show the doctor that he was wrong or something like that, right? Well, there's 3 steps before I get to that. So maybe now I can lead them down the road a little ahead of that, and have them have some short and interim goals to get there, where there's success or an interest or something that really piques their interest to develop those skills. And that just builds more love of the job and more value in this relationship, and you really get to show that if they're interested in something, you can help them blossom that in the work environment and personally too. And it's extremely rewarding for me. And I think it is for those that get exposed to that. And the thing is, if it doesn't work out and it's not for them, then it wasn't for them.
Right.
It's okay. It's okay. It's not for everybody, but it's not going to be because I didn't try to really figure out if it was for them. And if the end result was it's not for them, in a way I was successful, right? Because they're learning what's right for them. And that's okay.
Yeah. Can
Absolutely.
you talk about that, Joanne? Can you talk about, we always tend to, when we talk about a subject matter and we have examples, we typically talk about, our successes, the good ones, the ones. Can you go on to the other side of that moon and maybe talk about what you've learned about mentoring out of maybe a less optimal situation?
Yeah, well, I'm not a person that likes to lose just by nature. I mean, I'm a lawyer. You want to win. I played sports. I want to win. Like I have that sort of nature in me. I think one of the biggest values I ever learned, and it was in my job, was if it didn't work out, it doesn't mean it's a failure. It's just a success from another lens. What is the positive from this? And if I really was trying to develop their, ability to recognize, value in core values that maybe newer generations aren't getting so much of, or I'm able to, show them, loyalty in ways that they don't see in their personal lives, or whatever it is. If that ended up not being for my long-term benefit, I still got a long-term benefit from it. I really, really did. And I really did what I was trying to do. And I guess the answer, Barry, is there's always another lens. We never look at something as a flat surface. This is a 4D world, right? So there's got to be a way that you can look at it where you learn something, you can, be better next time, or it was successful. That's the hardest thing for me to go. It feels like it wasn't, but it actually was. And, you can wish them well, and you can be proud of what you did, and you move on, and it was the right thing, and that's okay.
I think that's a great point, is that them learning what they don't want to do is as important as learning what they do want to do.
Exactly.
Guide them through that process to kind of separate, the wheat from the chaff there, I think is a valuable service, like you said.
And it's still important as an employer as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you really do want to know if there's somebody that you have plans for in the future, and, they're going to do big things in your mind for the firm, and then you find out that that's actually not going to happen because it's not what you think it is. I think that's very valuable information. In the same way, Mark, that we would always, in the claims world, everybody wanted to, because using private investigators doing sub rosa on claims is very expensive. It's really hard to get good results that ultimately manifest themselves in the courtroom. So people very easily give up, or they just choose not to do it, or they do kind of a halfway effort at it just to show someone that they, took a stab at it. But for me, if we had a big bad case and we did sub rosa, and we found out that they really were as bad, as injured, as disabled as they said they were, to me, that was good information. Obviously, everybody wants to so-called catch them doing something that they say they can't. But if you do confirm that the case is as it appears to be, that's very valuable. And for us, we would want to make sure that injured worker got everything that they should get, and maybe even, some extra courtesy as a result of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, Mark, just even in the interview process, that can be applied. I've told many people in the interview process, like, I don't know if this is for you. What I get from you in our hour we've been together is, and I'll just try to mirror back some of the values and interests that I got from that, and say, this is what we do. You're interviewing me in this organization as much as I'm interviewing you. Are you sure? Think it through. And quite a few have said, you're right. Thank you. You're right. And you can be doing mentoring at every step, in that regard, is trying to really figure out what they want. That's the first step, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Well, an organization that's going to thrive has to be filled with people that like what they're doing. If you got checkbox people that the worst moment of their entire week is that alarm clock on Monday morning, you're probably not getting optimum output and productivity from them. So as we close this up, I'd like for y'all to think about one final word of wisdom, one kind of drop the mic moment that you would like to leave for those that are watching this. Barry, I'd like to start with you. Of all the things that we've discussed, or maybe something that we haven't, what's a concise kind of drop the mic moment, last minute thing that you want to leave the audience with?
Mentoring and mentees are a way of life, not a business practice, not a new thing. And to do it right takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of skill, and is incredibly rewarding.
Thanks, Barry. Joanne?
I would say be authentic, show your real self to everybody, and they will show their real self to you. And realize that there's a silver lining in everything, even if it doesn't at first blush seem that it's working out. But, if you give back, they're going to give back. And it's just rewarding, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
I'm not used to deep philosophy coming from an attorney, so I appreciate that side of you. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for joining this video. I think it was very instructive. I think if you're an employer, you need to understand that investing in your employees is the right thing to do for a variety of different reasons. And if you're a mentor, the best thing to do is to be authentic and to recognize the investment that you're going to make, and be willing to commit the time, the effort, the focus, the open-ended questions, the active listening, all those character traits that helps you understand where they're coming from, and then, to use Joanne's term, help them blossom what really is going to make them really thrive. So thank you both so much for this.
Thank you.
Look forward to continued discussions.
Thank you so much. What great fun.